Well, hello YouTube, it's me Fortmaster, and welcome back to another overly sarcastic Productions Trope Talk reaction, and this is Cosmic Alignments. So I'm wondering now, what do they mean specifically by cosmic alignments? Do they mean, cosmic alignments more in just the celestial sense, where like, oh, the planets have aligned, or the stars have aligned, that sort of thing? Or are they talking more about, being aligned with like cosmic deities or something like that? Because, granted, both of those are tropes. Though, knowing TV tropes is probably the first one, because the second one would probably have a much different name. Because, that's just how TV tropes is. There's so many of them. You have to kind of give them memorable names so you know which ones you're talking about specifically. So, I guess we should probably get into this then, shall we? So, yeah, of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day, and yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
In the grand toolbox of narrative conventions, very few things are better for a writer than a ticking clock. And I don't just mean how deadline stress is a hell of a motivator to kick the creativity brain into overdrive. Narratively speaking, it is very useful for a story to give its characters an in-universe deadline that they have to accomplish some task in time for, or risk absolute failure on a grand scale. For whatever reason, there's an event permanently locked into the schedule that is pivotal to their success or failure, and if they don't hit the target, they're pretty much screwed.
Okay, so that's what this is gonna... So I was right in the whole... cosmic alignments, like, oh, you must be here before the stars align, or else the Dark Lord will be released from his eternal prison, that sort of thing. Okay, let's see where this goes.
Structurally, this answers several foundational questions, like why do our heroes need to worry about this now, and why can't they slow down and do this smart instead of flinging themselves headfirst into perils they aren't prepared for? A ticking clock with a hard deadline puts the pressure on, automatically raises the stakes of failure, and gives the writer a very clear idea of when and how this story is going to end, and what it's going to look like when it does. Which you wouldn't think would be a noteworthy benefit, but oh man. Let's
put the journey, not the destination, right? Yeah, right. They all say that.
It tells the writer what they're building everything towards, what they're foreshadowing, what they need to plant for their eventual payoff. And while it's not the only thing that a story needs to hold together, we've had a lot of examples in the last decade of stories that had no idea how they were going to end. And a lot of them ended so badly that they retroactively made people hate everything they'd built up beforehand.
The two perfect examples of that, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, which I don't think was so much, people not knowing where it was ending, but more the fact that they kept changing who was in charge of it, and so they kept changing the trajectory, so I guess that's sort of similar, but and then there, Game of Thrones. But can I just say that I was kind of happy when the Game of Thrones show just completely flopped at the end there? Like, I never got into it. Like, I've enjoyed, listening to, like, the lore of the world and stuff like that. But the show had been so hyped up for so long, I felt like I couldn't watch it just out of spite, because I found, like, all the hype around it really annoying. So I kind of got that little bit of that's it, Schadenfreude, that's the proper word. I felt, for the first time in my life, true Schadenfreude when I heard how bad the show actually ended off. Now, again, granted, I know that's a very mean thing to say, but that's all I gotta say on the topic. Of course, it's, it sucks when something you watch, ends. It doesn't stick the landing, so to speak. And yeah, it was horrible. And I know that's horrible to say. Like, looking back on it, that's like really mean.
Functionally rendering the entire multi-year effort pointless through no fault of the many participants who poured their hearts and souls into making it come alive. Knowing at least the basic shape of a story's finale is a subtle but vital element to effective long-form storytelling, and one very simple way to lock that in from the outset is to give the characters a hard deadline. And deadlines don't get much harder than a good old cosmic alignment.
Actually, thinking about it, the whole thing with, like, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and how, like, they kept changing directors of each film and, like, changing, stuff like that. What was the original ending of the third one going to be? We all know that the one we got was, Palpatine somehow back again. But, like, was that always the plan and then they just messed up the way towards that ending? Or was the ending, changed? I'm gonna have to look that up.
The concept of a cosmic alignment is grounded in the very non-fictional fact of reality that stars, planets, and the moon move in very regular and predictable cycles, and that means there are predictable and calculable times when they overlap, or rather, align. If you're interested in the way real-world cosmic alignments work and feel, I made 2 videos about recent solar eclipses that unpack that in significantly more detail. In the real world, the most striking kind of cosmic alignment is definitely the solar eclipse, closely followed by the lunar eclipse, which have the advantage of being the only kinds of cosmic alignments you can see clearly without needing a telescope. I've got a little astronomy app on my phone called Star Walk that pings me whenever, like, Venus is close to Pollux, or Jupiter and the moon are gonna look close together or whatever, so trust me when I say that little cosmic alignments are happening basically all the time, but they're usually not all that interesting to look at. Eclipses are the real breadwinners in the cool sky spectacles department, and writers know it because when it comes to fictional cosmic alignments, solar eclipses are far and away the most popular flavor. The concept of a fictional cosmic alignment is simple. 2 or more heavenly bodies have predictable cycles of movement, and somebody has calculated out when they are going to sync up. When that happens, it's going to cause something, almost always something magical. Despite the scientific origins of the concept, cosmic alignments are very rarely used as plot points in sci-fi and generally just feature in fantasy, where it's pretty.
You would say that, but actually, would you classify Transformers as sci-fi, right? I mean, it's more on the softer end of sci-fi. I mean, I guess depending on the version you're using. But I remember, granted, my all-time favorite series for Transformers was Transformers Prime, and I guess if you want to classify it as spoilers. It turns out that Unicron is the Earth, and he was going to awaken when when I forget whether there was going to be like an alignment of like a bunch of planets between Earth and the center of the galaxy, or Earth and Cybertron. It's been a while since I looked it up, but there was going to be some sort of like cosmic alignment in the galaxy, and that long line of planets was going to somehow wake up Unicron from his, millennia-long slumber, having, formed into the Earth. So, I mean, yeah, it's rare, but it is done. Just, only occasionally.
Pretty easy to claim that a couple orbits crossing over is tied in with an ancient prophecy and it's going to have massive consequences for whatever's under it, which is a little harder to justify in the harder side of sci-fi, where the effect of a cosmic alignment generally starts and ends with looking cool. In any case, the cosmic alignment will either cause something or enable an opportunity for the characters to do something, and thus it serves as a hard deadline on the plans for our protagonists, our antagonists, or both. In some more nebulous cases, a cosmic alignment might be tied with the long-term execution of some sort of prophecy, i.e., when the stars align, this ancient force will awaken from its 10,000-year slumber, etc., etc. And since this is a frequent staple of Lovecraftian cosmic horror, the implication is generally, and this will fuck everybody over in an unstoppably horrific way, and as we are but ants, there is naught that can be done but wait with souls adread. But in most cases, it's a much more like short-term actionable thing. The exact details of the cosmic alignment vary depending on the setting. On Earth or in Earth-like settings, it's most common for the cosmic alignment to be an eclipse. Solar eclipses are popular triggers for evil magic that powers up the big bad and are only rarely seen in positive contexts, while lunar eclipses are kind of wild cards. Despite the ominousness of a bright red moon, they're not automatically seen as bad news. Earth-like settings can also have planetary alignments factoring into things. If the setting isn't Earth-like, the possibilities for cosmic alignments become significantly
You have enough moons,
Non-Earth settings still frequently get solar eclipses, just because solar eclipses are extremely rad and not a spectacle many writers would willingly deprive themselves of. But you can also get stories where the setting has multiple moons or suns, and a convergence of those bodies can be very significant. There are also stories where the cosmic deadline isn't stellar or planetary at all. Most things that move in space have predictable orbits, including things like comets, and the close approach of a comet can be used to signal all kinds of weird stuff. Specific meteor showers also usually peak at consistent and predictable intervals, although that isn't as well known, I've noticed. So a story can use a meteor shower as a cosmic deadline if it wants, but it's kinda rare. The possibilities are pretty much endless, especially if you aren't overly concerned with adhering to the laws of physics. All you need for a cosmic alignment is for 2 or more space objects to snap into a specific arrangement, preferably one that doesn't happen too frequently. And bam! Cosmic alignment o'clock. The primary component of the cosmic alignment plot device is its inevitability. It's literally written in the stars. And while the cool thing about fiction is literally nothing is categorically impossible, it takes an extremely high-power character to alter the course of the heavens themselves. Generally, stopping or altering a cosmic alignment is inconceivably far above our protagonist's pay.
I mean, can you imagine that? You have a story where, like, by the end of the story, when they reach, the alignment and when it's supposed to happen, your hero is so powerful that they either stop the Earth or whatever planet they're on with like their powers, or another planet like enough that they can throw the whole cycle out of whack. I mean, at that point, if they are powerful enough to not destroy the planet just outright, Like, man, that's basically got to be like the birth of a new god, doesn't it?
So whatever the cosmic alignment does is going to happen when it wants to happen, and the only thing the characters can do is prepare for it, find a way to loop it into their plans, or broadly deal with the consequences as best they can. As a side note, you do sometimes get powerful characters, usually villains, causing artificial cosmic alignments, typically fake eclipses in service of some kind of eternal night scheme. But weirdly enough, that's a completely separate kind of trope to the cosmic alignment, and is basically just a special effect applied to the big bad's inevitable big plan. A real cosmic
What did I say about how the specificity of TV tropes? There's a lot of them. Actually, wait, I wonder how many TV tropes are actually on TV tropes. This tool says we currently have 20,926 tropes. What? Yeah, so subpage. Okay, no, so this has gone up. Yeah, so as of the date of recording this, June 3rd, 2024, there are currently 32,170 different TV tropes on tvtropes.com. Or .org, actually. Jeez, that's a lot.
Alignment happens with or without the input of the characters, and while it may present a unique opportunity for some sort of extremely powerful magic, it cannot be commanded or controlled by any of the characters aiming to harness its potential. Now, this is a pretty flexible structure. One can even argue it's surprisingly vague,
insert
and
climax
that's for the simple reason that what exactly the cosmic alignment does is completely up to the writer. It is a blank Mad Libs line with the instruction, pencil in the climactic thread of your story here. A cosmic alignment in the real world or in fiction land is an inherently dramatic spectacle that feels unbelievably powerful, and a writer making any sort of fantasy setting can basically justify it causing whatever they want it to. The cosmic alignment might break the seal on an ancient evil, or activate the big bad's massively complicated spell, or open a gateway to another realm, or facilitate the ascension of a monster, or really anything the writer wants it to do. It's a rare, cool-looking event that reminds us of the vastness of the universe and all its wonder. It can do whatever it wants.
Actually, that's the thing, like, the last eclipse that happened, like, what was it, a couple of months ago at this point? Yeah, so like I live in Toronto, and so we weren't in the path of totality. We were like on the edge. I think if I remember correctly, we were like, the sun would be like 99% covered. So we didn't, see the entire thing. But what was cool for us was it was actually overcast at the time. So it was overcast enough that we could actually look at the eclipse with our bare eyes and not have our eyeballs burned out of our skulls. So, I mean, that was awesome, especially the fact, like, it got darker and colder. It was spooky, and especially, like you look down, like, towards the lake, like, which is south for us, and it was just absolutely black over there. Like, it was so freaky. Like, it was, oh god, it was the whole thing of like I know the sky changes color, but it's usually east to west, not north to south.
Just about the only hardline subdivision we can draw is whether the cosmic alignment does something the antagonist wants, or something they don't. For instance, check it off your bingo cards, Avatar's Day of Black Sun is a cosmic alignment, specifically a solar eclipse, unsurprisingly, that is very bad for Team Bad Guy because it switches off everybody's firebending for a few minutes, making it the prime opportunity to launch an invasion while they can't explode things with their minds. Unfortunately for Team Good Guy, while the rank-and-file Fire Nation soldiers don't seem to have been informed that their powers are going to stop working when the sun goes bye-bye, Fire Lord Ozai and company are very aware of this and have prepared for the scenario by squirreling him away to a backup secret lair, causing the invasion to fail and basically wiping out our hero's entire army of allies. This is actually an incredibly illustrative example of how meta-narratively useful it is to the writer to have a cosmic deadline, because after the Black Sun invasion fails, our heroes spend several episodes adopting Zuko, side-questing, and goofing off, leading to Zuko having a minor breakdown when he realizes they aren't taking the Sozin's Comet deadline seriously, so he has to drop a new cosmic deadline on them right before the finale so they actually get their act together and fight the Fire Lord before he torches the Earth Kingdom. The comet handily illustrates the other sort of cosmic alignment, namely one that the antagonists want to happen, because while the Day of Black Sun nerfed all the firebenders, Sozin's Comet is going to buff them for extra damage, making it a very unideal time for our heroes to try to fight them. Or rather, unideal from the perspective of the heroes, but perfect from the writing angle that'll make the final conflict significantly more perilous and exciting than if they just beat the Fire Lord when he couldn't fight back.
Oh, that was the thing, actually. So the eclipse removed their powers for a couple of minutes. I'm forgetting, how long were the effects of Sozin's Comet, like, active? Because I know, like, comets, I mean, would it be like a day? Or would it be just like a couple of minutes like before? Because, I mean, granted, I mean, my knowledge of geography from the Avatar world is a little rusty. But I'm fairly certain that the Earth Kingdom is literally the largest country on the planet, at least at that time. So you'd think that even with his, with his boosted firepower, it would have taken him a while to, scorch a sizable percentage of the entire planet.
Which actually leads into a much more broad-scale writing principle that the unsubtlety of the cosmic alignment trope kinda exposes, much like how the corona of the sun only becomes visible when the moon obscures the disk. I've previously discussed the unspoken plan guarantee, which is the principle that a plan the audience has seen explained on screen is guaranteed to fail, while a plan that the audience hasn't already been told stands a much great chance of success. It's technically a trope,
right,
but
yeah,
it's
that
more
one.
of a consequence of some much more deep-seated rules of storytelling, namely that it is boring to see the same thing play out twice. When the unspoken plan guarantee is violated, the end result is the audience sees something they've already had explained, which is redundant and kind of weak in the execution. Similar to that concept, the hidden writing principle that the cosmic alignment reveals is something I like to call the endgame inevitability. The endgame inevitability decrees that the villain's complex multi-step plan cannot be thwarted until the very last minute, when it is in its final stages of completion and all preparations have already succeeded. If the villain's plan requires that they collect a whole set of MacGuffins, they will successfully do that, and the hero's attempts to guard or hide them from the villain are guaranteed to fail. If the villain is concealing their full power behind transformations and power limiters, they will not be defeated until they have revealed their final form and probably a secret bonus form after that for good measure. If the villain's plan hinges on the day of the cosmic alignment for its final culmination, they will succeed in every preparatory step and reach the cosmic alignment poised for total victory. The heroes will naturally want to stop the villain before they reach the final stages of their victory and presumably try very hard to do so. But no matter what, whether they aim to destroy the infrastructure supporting the plan, squirrel away one or more mandatory MacGuffins, or just take out the villain before they reach their final form, they are going to fail. The villain will reach their endgame just like they planned, and in the case of a plan that hinges on a cosmic alignment, the endgame inevitability guarantees that the villain's plan cannot be stopped before the alignment and must instead be stopped during or immediately afterwards. And the reason for this is actually very simple.
Makes a lot
it's
of
more
sense.
Interesting that way. The reason the heroes can't just hide or destroy one of the villain's mandatory—
Which, actually thinking about it, sort of, Avengers Endgame kind of did subvert that. A little bit at the very least, because Thanos did get all of the stones. He did wipe out half the life in the universe. It's the only thing that, foiled his plan was literal time travel.
Is because they become a much more dangerous and interesting threat when they have all of them. The heroes stopping an evil plan before it really gets going is an anticlimax compared to the promised final confrontation where the heroes must instead desperately struggle against the ultimate foe at the apex of their power. If the villain can conceivably get more threatening, they inevitably will do so. The heroes cannot win before the final battle because the final battle is what the entire story has been building towards, and therefore it must be as epic as possible. But at the same time, this is kind of only automatically interesting on paper. If a writer isn't careful, the endgame inevitability can make everything the heroes do before that finale feel completely pointless.
What part of everything proof S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't clicking? Oh, God.
Like, the whole story up to that point was a waste of time. They try to stop the bad guy, but the writers will not let them. They try to slow down or cut off the villain's plans, but the writer will make sure the villain is always one step ahead. It's not fair. In the most literal sense, this scenario is contrived to be unfair to the heroes, because watching them struggle is what makes the story interesting. It is a damn good thing fictional characters are tools to tell a good story and not real people with real thoughts and feelings, because otherwise the act of writing would be just about the most unethical thing a person could do. The thing—
Jeez, okay, oh God. Yeah, can you imagine a character coming to the realization that their entire universe only exists for the delight and entertainment of other, god-tier beings? That's just sad.
Is the endgame inevitability isn't guaranteed
Look at
to
the
make the hero's
runtime!
struggles feel fruitless, because protagonist progress isn't a binary. Just because the heroes can't stop the ultimate villain early doesn't mean they can't accomplish other important things. One of the best stories that utilizes a cosmic alignment and the endgame inevitability in relation to it
I've never watched Full Metal Alchemist,
also check it off your bingo cards. A story where the villain's ultimate plan hinges on a series of complex preparations building up to the promised day, which turns out to be the day of a total solar eclipse. The plan is very intricate and has several potential points of failure that our heroes try and ultimately fail to exploit, because there's no way they're getting to the finale without having to deal with the big bad plan. But everything the heroes do serves a narrative purpose. Sometimes their actions build towards their own counterplan to mitigate or undo the effects of the promised day. Sometimes they just gather or win over allies, or take out a bad guy that means one less boss fight day of, or go to extremely complicated lengths to avoid being forced to participate in the final evil plan so their morals stay intact. I'm trying not to be too specific here, because Full Metal Alchemist is the kind of masterpiece of writing that I think everybody should get a chance to experience clean. Previous Trope Talks spoiling big chunks of it notwithstanding. But really, if there's one story that I think balances the climactic final showdown promised by the endgame inevitability with the protagonists actually feeling like they're accomplishing meaningful goals along the way, it's this one. And one big reason for that is the main characters have extremely important personal goals they're pursuing for the entire story. And stopping the big bad's evil plan is completely ancillary to that and is basically just an unexpected inconvenience. From minute one and the established premise of the show, the primary thing protagonists Ed and Al care about is getting back the extremely important body parts they lost in an ill-fated attempt to alchemy their mom back to life. Al specifically has the worst of it, having lost his entire body and currently surviving as a soul bound to an empty suit of armor that can kick serious ass in a fight, but also can't eat, sleep, or feel the warmth of human contact. The personal goal of finding some way to get their bodies back provides the story with secondary stakes at every turn. Even if the characters win a victory over Team Bad Guy, it can still feel like they suffered a devastating loss if their current angle of approach to solving the body problem is looking like a dead end. And on the flip side, even if they fail to definitively thwart the big bad's evil plan in some new and clever way, which is pretty much guaranteed due to the endgame inevitability, if they make any progress on their personal goals in the process, it can still make the whole thing feel like a meaningful win. Cosmic alignments, as a trope, have a bit of an aura of vastness to them, which is appropriate enough for anything to do with space. When the great gears of the universe inexorably turn to the stroke of midnight, it's easy for the characters at the center of the story to feel small and powerless. Generally, the turning of the cosmos is a neutral inevitability. It's just a thing that will happen, with or without the input of the characters. Plans and schemes that center on cosmic alignments are usually relatively small-scale machinations when it comes down to it. Petty plans for personal empowerment that take advantage of the opening provided by the stars aligning. While the villains usually get more out of cosmic alignments than the good guys do just by the general rules of underdog heroism, it's not like the bad guys have any more control over them. Thanks to the endgame inevitability, the bad guys can often feel like unstoppable forces of narrative nature. Because their near victory is the most interesting outcome, they really are unstoppable.
Which, yeah, oh god, the whole thing. I mean, I guess that also does kind of show the whole, like, the kind of like the different flavor of it where, oh yeah, at the end, it actually does succeed, and the villain succeeds, but oh no, what they were doing, they can't control it, so yeah, then they're in trouble as well, and then everybody's like...
Right up until they aren't. When the cosmic alignment comes due and the villain's big plan reaches its ultimate final culmination, that's usually when the uncaring gears of the universe prove once and for all how small and alone they really are. A big bad is never in more danger of being horrendously outclassed than when all their schemes have come to fruition and they have no more power-ups left in the tank. Because even if they harness the cosmic alignment, even if they use it to further their goals to final completion, they cannot control it. And if the good guys successfully hold them off or beat them back until the cosmic alignment is over, then they pretty much instantly lose everything right at the moment that should have been their most profound victory. In tying their plans to something so massively powerful as the turning of the heavens themselves, all they do is reveal how small and weak they really are. It is oddly common for the perpetrators of cosmic alignment schemes to find themselves suddenly facing down entities of godlike power, embodiments of the heavens or the truth or the balance of nature, who absolutely smoke them right when their hubris is at its most extreme. It's a fun reminder that while the endgame inevitability forces the villain to succeed right up until the finale, the writer is a fickle ally and no friend to the big bad. The aid of the writer is conditional on what makes a better story, a system of wheels within wheels far beyond the comprehension of the characters caught in their gears. A villain is only built up to their highest heights because it makes it that much more fun to watch them fall. So, yeah.
I will say it once again, I love Red's, Trope Talks. She has a way of saying the stuff that's just absolutely wonderful. I absolutely love it. And it's also just, it's very obvious that she's a lot more media literate. I think that's the right word than I am. Because while I've seen a lot of those examples, especially, Avatar, actually putting into words why these trope talks work, or, the whole thing, oh god, yeah, like that line, like, the author is a fickle ally, like, that's just wonderful writing right there all by itself. Oh, so yeah. That'll be it for now. So, of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it yet for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.